Introvert: The Power and Benefits of Introversion Explained. Written by Tyler Bourdain, narrated by Thomas Cassidy. Introduction. What is an introvert really? So, the million-dollar question is, what's an introvert really? How do you define who is, or is not, an introvert? Traditionally, an introvert is considered someone that internalizes their feelings, needs time alone to re-energize, and tends to be quiet and reserved. This is a common way to describe us introverts, but may not be the whole truth. So, what is an introvert? It turns out that the definition may not be so cut and dry. Definitions and stereotypes are used to easily categorize people and put them in neatly organized compartments. People are often labeled as either an introvert or an extrovert. Introverts are considered shy and solitary, while extroverts are often considered outgoing and gregarious. But did you know that most introverts are not shy? And did you know that shyness is not a personality trait but an insecurity or fear issue experienced by both introverts and extroverts? That's right. Introvert does not equal shy. Thank you very much. Embracing your introverted personality. If you are an introvert like me, embrace it. You are awesome and have some pretty cool facets about yourself. Here are just a few. You work well with others, especially in one-on-one relationships. You maintain long-term friendships. You are super flexible, laid back, and just plain cool. You are most definitely independent. You have a strong ability to concentrate. You are creative, out-of-the-box thinkers. You have remarkable analytical skills that integrates complexity. Chapter 1. Successful Introverted CEOs. As a new CEO, your employees expect you to be an extrovert with an outgoing, gregarious personality. Most people have the perception of a successful CEO as being an extrovert, but in reality, you are a successful introvert who has mastered the ability to act like an extrovert. There are many ingredients to success, and many entrepreneurs who are introverts have their own challenges to deal with when it comes to business success. Introverts typically find several traditional situations too exhausting and draining. According to research, about 70% of CEOs describe themselves as introverts. The list of well-known who's who of corporate introverted CEOs includes Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, movie magnate Steven Spielberg, and Sara Lee's Brenda Barnes. Introverts make up 40% of the population. Considered as introverts, these CEOs at times are able to move far enough towards extrovert status to be considered ambiverts. Ambiverts are those who fall in the middle between extroverts and introverts. At times they can function well in many different situations. Thriving in corporate America as a shy or introverted executive, you may find yourself moving up the corporate ladder in your organization. Take into consideration the characteristics possessed by introverts. Introverts value privacy, need quiet time alone to recharge, feel more comfortable being alone than being with others, prefer to know a few people well. This fits for many CEOs who are lonely at the top and confide in a small circle of friends. Like to work independently or with one or two other people. Prefer to focus on one thing at a time. Communicate best one-to-one, and prefer to communicate in writing instead of through talking. Before speaking, introverts think first, then act on what they think about. They prefer listening more than talking, rehearse things before saying them, and are perceived as great listeners. One common trait of highly successful executives is that of being creative. Since introverts spend a lot of their time alone, they are among the most creative individuals in business. Introverts who are highly effective in completing tasks can usually get away with saying little, but when they do speak, it is meaningful. Introverts are also considered self-sufficient, confident, hard-working, having firm goals, reserved, being educated to overcompensate for the lack of social skills, and being Rhodes Scholars. Among people with PhDs, there are 3 introverts to every 1 extrovert. On the other hand, extroverts typically have lots of friends, feel drained when they are bored and alone, are energized when they are with other people, are motivated to action, tend to be sociable with others, talkative, and assertive. Prefer face-to-face verbal communication rather than written communication, are ready to share personal information easily to others, and respond to situations quickly. 5 ways to sell to introverts. Millions of introverts hate the way you sell. According to recent studies, between 33 and 50% of North Americans are introverts, including many of your clients. Further, more than 70% of the world's CEOs describe themselves as introverts, including Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. To assume that you know your clients and how to approach them is to take a risk. Wrong assumptions can lead you to communicate with clients in a way that seems confusing and even foreign. They become disconnected or completely turned off. Introverts might be a minority in America, but they can be the most loyal customers. Ignoring introverted clients will almost definitely damage your sales and cost you business. The best way to turn introverts off? Use the most popular sales techniques. If you want to improve your sales results and grow your business, it is time to seek a more accurate understanding of your clients. It pays to understand your audience. When you do, you can connect with and keep introverted clients for years. Here are 5 most important points when it comes to selling to introverts. Number 1. Introverts hate small talk. If you want to start your call or meeting on a positive note, be polite, avoid small talk, and get to the point. Introverts rarely make small talk with their friends. They almost never do it with someone they don't know. Number 2. Getting close to an introvert takes time. Sales trainers often recommend walking into a client's office and asking about a photograph or trophy on display. This approach won't work for introverts. They guard their personal lives closely from strangers and need time to trust you. Number 3. Introverts are wary of fake friendliness and personal questions. If you make too many jokes or invade their privacy too soon, you'll lose rapport immediately. Instead, respect their introversion by having polite, meaningful conversations. Always reassure introverts that what will be discussed in your meeting, it will stay within the 4 walls. Number 4. Introverted buyers want to be approached as individuals, not as another name on the list. Introverts live their lives according to their own inner systems, not others' opinions, and they find the non-individualistic approach offensive. If you want to book an appointment with an introverted client, you need to approach him or her individually, paying attention to his or her title, position in the company, and scheduling limitations. Number 5. Don't use hype. Salespeople love hype language because they don't have to invest time into understanding the product or the customer. Introverts spot the exaggerated information in these traditional types of pitches quickly, and when they find out that the salesperson doesn't know what he or she is talking about, they shut down the conversation. To win an introvert's respect, you need to prove your credibility using third-party endorsements, certifications, and awards your product or company won. Introverts don't usually get swept away by a sales pitch, but they can be influenced by objective reviews or media coverage. Chapter 2. Dealing with introverts. How do you approach an introvert? This is certainly not an easy task, especially if you have an extroverted personality. People with an introverted personality are often difficult to understand. Or are they really? These two words are like the two sides of a coin, but still they belong to the same coin. This being said, understanding an introvert might be a lot easier than you think. All you need is a lot of affection, time, and appreciation for what introverts are. The things that characterize introverts. Before you put your foot on the path that leads to learning to deal with your introvert, you need to learn a thing or two about him or her. Introverts are not necessarily shy and quiet, or shy and quiet at all. Simply, it is not in their nature to be surrounded by a large number of people at all times. They talk only when they have something to say, while their efforts to have a meaningless conversation can easily turn into an awkward moment. Your introvert will often keep quiet until they are absolutely sure that the thought they are about to share with you is worth sharing and well thought through. Learn how to deal with people with an introverted personality. Not enough attention is being devoted to the topic of introverted people, although this should be the case. People get the wrong impression about introverts very often, and this makes it impossible for the extroverts to talk to introverts, let alone create meaningful relationships with them. So should extroverts live separately on one side of our planet and the small percent of introverted population move to the opposite side? The answer is no. This is why it is absolutely necessary for introverts and extroverts to learn to talk to each other, understanding and respecting each other's natures. How to deal with introverts? If you want to help an introvert open up and see a friend in you, you need to know how to treat them. Introverts are prone to answering questions rather than starting conversations. As an extrovert, you should always summarize conversations you had with an introvert, as they look at the world with different eyes and in a unique way. Learn to respect their needs, and more importantly, understand these needs. Introverted people need their own space, their own time, and you as an extrovert should learn to respect and appreciate this. They will use this time to take in everything that happened to them during the day, and maybe drift away into daydreaming. Understanding this will help you avoid arguments and lack of trust. Learn to respect your introvert, as they will certainly remember to appreciate this gesture. You'll easily find a friend for life in them. The introverted personality type. What are the benefits of having an introverted personality? Shy, socially awkward, boring at times, alone, and often lonely. These are the traits that are usually related to introverted people. In reality, introverted people are engaged in deep and meaningful friendships, vigorously discussing the things they are passionate about. They are alone because they want to be, and lonely because they are most commonly misunderstood. Now, these two descriptions are completely different from one another, yet they both describe introverts. How come our perception can vary so greatly that the same type of personality is described so diversely? Having an introverted personality, an advantage or a drawback? There's been a lot of discussion about whether being an introvert is a good thing or not. The truth is that there are a lot of different opinions on the subject. There are introverts who believe that their personality is their biggest advantage. There are, on the other hand, introverts who are not glad to have an introverted personality, and there are extroverts who, being different in nature, don't understand the whole concept of turning to your own inner world. So, is being an introvert a drawback? Actually, it is not. The benefits of having an introverted personality. Solving problems. Having great observational skills and being a very good listener, an introvert is considered to be a great thinker. Most commonly, a person with an introverted personality will easily recognize the core of a problem, and, having a great, open mind, they will easily approach the problem and solve it. The fact that introverts can step into the shoes of extroverts proves that they can think and act in two opposite ways, which is one of the most effective techniques in solving problems. People with an extroverted personality, on the other hand, are not prone to turning to their introverted side and acting upon it. Higher quality of life. People who are turned to their inner world are, in most instances, characterized as people who don't make friends effortlessly. This is sometimes true, but the friendships and all the other relationships introverts form are long-lasting and meaningful. This means that a person with an introverted personality will do everything that is in their power to form a relationship that they'll be able to rely on. They will invest their time, their affection, and devote their whole being to a person that they want to include in their lives. Would you like a friend like that? According to a definition, this makes introverts highly accepted by the society, rather than making them shy and lonely. How to work well with introverted clients. 4 guidelines. Skittish, cocooned, loyal, disciplined. Introverts are those who enjoy their own company and need time alone to recharge. They may or may not be shy, but they don't talk for the sake of talking, and aren't at their best in a loud, crowded situation. You're more likely to describe introverts as interesting people than as exciting folks to be around. To an introvert, that's a compliment rather than a put-down. According to researchers, the percentage of introverts gets higher as you go up in the income scale. So, if you work with the affluent or with those in professions that attract quiet workers, you're more likely to run into them. As clients, they may require special interpersonal measures, particularly if you yourself have backslapping, chatty, everyone's a friend tendencies. Number 1. Respect the introvert's reserve. Introverts understand the need for a handshake as a social greeting, but don't go beyond that. They dislike social hugs, and even a casual hand on the shoulder may feel out of line to them if they regard you as a business associate. Personal comments, like comments on what they're wearing or guesses about the ethnic origin of their name, which might establish rapport with someone else, can feel intrusive to introverts. A jokey style that prods them to respond in kind starts off with them on the wrong foot. They appreciate it when you get down to business with a minimum of preliminaries. Allow them to talk without finishing their sentences for them or interrupting. Number 2. Respect the introvert's privacy. Introverts do not relish the idea of others knowing personal information about them, unless it's absolutely necessary. They're the ones who come up private on caller ID, who have unlisted telephone numbers, who bring up the issue of confidentiality at the outset of a relationship. They may balk at writing a testimonial, even when they're extremely pleased with how you help them, because it exposes something about themselves. Don't expect them to carry on business in a packed restaurant where the waiter and people at neighboring tables can overhear. Without their permission, don't disclose even innocuous facts about an introvert, such as the fact that you saw them last Wednesday, or that they went to Cornell to others. Reassure them that everything that goes on in your meetings stays within your 4 walls. If you set up a working lunch, choose a quiet place and reserve a table in a corner, or order in for your conference room. Number 3. Deal with an introvert one-on-one. Introverts come out of their shells most easily with just one other person at a time. In a group, they feel looking stupid or feeling vulnerable. They appreciate having your full attention when face-to-face. Don't allow telephone or walk-in interruptions, and don't unobtrusively check your BlackBerry or your computer monitor. They notice. If you're advising a pair of clients, where one doesn't say much, don't presume silence means the quiet person has no questions or agrees with the talkative one. Draw out the introvert by asking for their input and waiting for them to gather their thoughts. Number 4. Don't pressure an introvert. Introverts process information better on their own, and may need time and space to make their decisions. Expecting them to respond on the spot may get you nowhere. Impatience with their what-ifs will backfire. Big time. In a setting that suits them, introverts can be funny, creative, warm, congenial, productive, and loyal. Create that setting for them, and you can enjoy doing business with them for years and years and years. 5 ways to network easily if you're an introvert. The misconception about introverts. I think the biggest misconception about introverts is that they don't like people. Not true. Many introverts enjoy getting to know people, and many extroverts don't like people. People also make an assumption that introverts are shy and extroverts are the life of the party. Unfortunately, that's not entirely accurate. The difference between introverts and extroverts is how they recharge. What I mean by this is that when introverts need to recharge their mind, body, and soul, they prefer to do it alone. Extroverts, on the other hand, want to do it with a group of people. How do you know if you're an introvert or an extrovert? Well, the test is simple. If you feel invigorated spending lots of time with people, you're probably an extrovert. And if when you're in groups you tend to find your energy becoming depleted after a time, you're more than likely an introvert. Networking for introverts and extroverts. Imagine now networking for business, which is something that most people have to do to be successful. For extroverts, attending conferences and meetings are energizing. They love this stuff. Mention a conference and the extrovert is there. The introvert, not so much. So how can an introvert successfully network? Networking is essential for finding a new job or developing business for entrepreneurs. Here's the deal. It doesn't have to be anxiety-inducing. Start online. Aren't introverts lucky in this day and age? We have the internet. We have plenty of groups and platforms that any introvert can research and participate in, all from the comfort of a computer. LinkedIn, Facebook groups, meetups, and a host of others, e.g. professional associations, offer an opportunity for any introvert to meet people and participate in discussions before attending any meeting, event, or conference. Focus on strengths. Most introverts prefer dealing with people one-on-one or speaking in small group settings. Take advantage of that strength. Instead of focusing on going to large events, play to your natural abilities. If there is a small meet-up group gathering at a local co-working space, see about attending it. Alternately, once you've found someone close to you, meet this person for a 30-minute cup of coffee. It's a quick and defined meeting. Be prepared. Before any meeting or networking event, be prepared. You'll be asked by someone to share a little bit about yourself. Practice your elevator pitch. Give a concise version of what you do, and give the person who is asking 1 or 2 points about what you're looking to achieve. If you're feeling comfortable, ask the person to think about you if they happen to know someone who's in need of what you can deliver. Maintain relationships. One of the things I've learned in business and life is to go the extra mile. Maintain relationships. When you've met with people whom you connect with, keep the relationship going. Email them from time to time with something of interest to them. Pick up the telephone and give them a call and ask for their advice. People like to give you their opinions and advice. If you're friendly with some individuals in business, go out with them every once in a while for lunch or even a business dinner. Big league events. Finally, more than likely, you'll probably end up attending a big event or a conference. I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable at those types of functions. Remember that for all the happy backslapping and laughing that you see at these things, I can bet you that up to half the attendees are introverts and not feeling very comfortable, no matter how it might seem. Once you realize you're not alone, it should help you be more at ease. 6 advantages of being an introvert. Are you one of those people who prefer one-on-one activities over group activities? Do you enjoy solitude and simply being away from it all? Perhaps you are one of those individuals that hate conflict. Instead of talking, you express yourself in writing. Well, Having these qualities makes you an introvert. What is an introvert? The definition of an introvert is a shy, reticent, and typically self-centered person. On the other side of the spectrum, there is the extrovert. An extrovert is an outgoing, overtly expressive person. Here are the 6 advantages to being an introvert. Number 1. They maintain long-term friendships. Personally, I would rather have a few close friends than a lot of acquaintances. Why? Because your closest friends are always there for you, no matter the situation. Not only that, acquaintances are also easily replaceable. Number 2. They are intelligent. Instead of talking, introverts tend to observe their surroundings. They can also carry many intellectual conversations and are deep thinkers. Number 3. They are creatively inclined. Introverts are also known for their out-of-the-box thinking, and they often have unorthodox perspectives on things. This can be especially beneficial in the workforce, and it's a great way to differentiate themselves from the crowd. Unfortunately, I feel introverts are often overlooked in the workforce. 4. They have better focus. This comes in handy when pursuing tasks that require intense concentration. Examples of these tasks include writing, reading, playing an instrument, and science. Number 5. They are different from others. Introverts think differently from the rest of society. In other words, part of being an introvert is having individuality. Number 6. They are great listeners. Introverts are great in one-on-one conversations and are great listeners. Their conversations have substance and are much more meaningful. 5 quick tips for introvert salespeople. At one time it might have seemed an oxymoron to use the term introverted salesperson, but times have changed. More than ever before, employers are seeing that selling for introverts is on the rise. The days of the backslapping, fast-talking salesperson are gone, replaced by a sales staff that listens to the customer and tries to make sales into a pleasurable experience. Listen. Selling for introverts is no longer an impossibility. If you're in business, you probably have encountered a great many introverts in sales. They are the ones who are aware of what your needs are and who do everything they can to accommodate you. This is because introverts are great listeners. If you're an introvert, focus on that skill. The better you are at listening, the better you are at sales. Embrace creativity. Embracing creativity is another tip used to emphasize selling for introverts. Introverts are typically individuals who are content to spend a lot of time by themselves, content to work on a problem, attacking it from a variety of angles. This usually means that introverts tend to come up with unique ways of seeing a problem and solving it. Connections. For introverts, connections are important. While an introvert might not have 1,000 clients, you can be sure the clients that he or she does have are treated with respect and have a basis for a real connection. If you're an introvert, make sure that you take the time to always keep the connections open between you and your clients. If there hasn't been any activity on your accounts, you might want to drop a line to your clients and let them know you're thinking of them. Believe in the product. If you're an introvert, one thing that will tremendously help you in sales is believing in the product. Have you ever seen someone who is extremely shy begin to discuss something he or she is passionate about? It's a remarkable transformation. Someone previously shy is now animated and outgoing. The same thing happens when an introvert begins discussing a product or service that he or she can really get behind. Work with others. Sometimes the best way to increase selling for introverts is to work with someone else. When an introvert is part of a team, there might not be a lot of input that he or she provides, but when it is provided, attention is paid to it. Introverts are great at injecting quiet power into a sales presentation. As you can see, even if you're not the life of the sales party, you have a tremendous opportunity to really shine in sales. Simply believe in yourself, believe in the product, and treat your customers with respect. Chapter 3: Introverts, Extroverts, and Shyness. The real differences. Differences between introverts and extroverts. If you want to evolve fast, it is vital that you know the differences between introverted and extroverted people, their strong points and their weak points, and why your own personality type matters that much. Well, it is all related to how you can manage your social energy and the two different ways introverts and extroverts use to recharge and use this energy. I'll use a metaphor to make you better understand what this social energy is and how you can use it to your advantage. Imagine a battery within yourself, your own social energy battery. To have healthy relations with others, you'll have to learn how you can manage that limited battery's energy. You are the only one responsible for keeping your battery charged, and every person has its own ways of both recharging their battery and using its energy. The main difference between introverts and extroverts is in the way they manage their social energy. What makes it different for the two is that introverts and extroverts can't recharge their batteries in the same way. This is the only truly important difference between the two personality types, and should be the only way to differentiate between them. It is also why shyness hasn't got much to do with you having any of the two personality types. Who is the introvert? The introvert is a person that recharges their social batteries from doing solo activities. Watching a movie, reading a book, watching TV, meditation, etc. An introvert also uses up a lot of this energy when he's in a social environment, especially when he is surrounded by strangers or meets new people. This is due to how introverts feel a more intense need to wear a social mask. When he is surrounded by people who know him well, he doesn't need that much energy because he doesn't need his social mask as badly. However, when surrounded by strangers, it is the opposite. An introvert's strong point is his ability to deeply connect with one person at a time, in the same way that it is easier for the extrovert to manage his interactions with a bigger group of people. The introvert excels when it comes to connecting with one person at a time. Also, studies show that most of the world's great inventors, engineers, and scientists are introverts. Who is the extrovert? As opposed to introverts, they recharge their batteries from participating in group activities and from being surrounded by people. Things like going to a party, attending social events, volunteering, and working with others are the type of activities that make extroverts recharge their social energy very fast. They don't feel the need to wear a social mask as much as introverts do, so they're more comfortable being natural. An extrovert uses a lot of energy when he has to do solo activities like working alone and anything that might imply staying indoors by himself. He is not as good at listening to his own thoughts as the introvert is, which is why he spends so much energy when he has to do it. An extrovert's strong point is his ability to interact with groups of people, to be liked and wanted around by groups, and to be popular in general without much effort. It is harder for an extrovert to connect very deeply with one person, and his social skill is still at its best when in a group. Introverts and shyness. Most shy people think of themselves as being introverted, and very often confuse the two terms. Truth is, extroverted people can be, and are, shy too. While it is true that extroverts are a bit less likely to be shy due to how their comfort zone is usually expanded more into the social side, it doesn't mean that introverts can't train great social skills too. Actually, in order to feel happy and successful, they must do so. We as humans are social animals, and there's a strong reason to this metaphor. We can't feel happy without our social relations. I'm confident there's no person in this world that prefers being alone, doesn't keep contact with his family, doesn't have close friends and a partner, that can honestly say they are happy. I see people who claim they are happy this way, on the internet of course, but any sociable person can tell they lie to themselves. They only hang on to the ambition to not waste time with social relations because it's their only thing they can use as an excuse for their lack of motivation to do something with their life. We can't be happy, productive, and have results in any domain of our life if we can't do well socially. You need to have a fulfilling social life in order to be happy and successful. Being an introvert. Tips for opening up to others. There are basically two types of personality when it comes to the way in which we observe the world around us. You can be either an introvert or an extrovert, and as the prefixes suggest, be turned to yourself, which is the case in first instance, or you can be turned to people around you, as is the case with the latter. If you are an introvert, you'll probably be given a lot of things to think about. For instance, there are numerous articles all over the internet that deal with the question of whether children with an introverted personality should be brought up as extroverts, or should their nature be left unchanged. The reason for this is the fact that introverted people are usually faced with a lot of challenges that the world has placed before them, the biggest of which is to fit in. Stay true to yourself. Regardless of whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, a teenager or an adult, stubborn in nature, emotional, or anything else, you should always be true to who you are. If you don't accept yourself for who you are, how do you expect the others to do the same? If you have an introverted personality, you should widely accept it, and be proud to be that 25% of people who are introverts. Introverts. Should you change, or your fellow extrovert? Being different in nature, introverts are often misunderstood by extroverts. However, you should always keep in mind that being an introvert is a great thing. Despite that, there is a lot of content on the subject that defines introversion as something to be changed. The logic is that being smaller in number, introverts should approach extroverts. But in reality, both sides should make efforts in order to understand each other. How to open up to others. Introverts are generally more interested in their inner world than the world around them, and this allows them to be thoughtful, sharp-minded individuals that are in most cases very creative and unique in their perception of things. Unfortunately, introverts are often misunderstood and left alone. So how do you approach people without changing your nature? Well, you start by changing the little things. In order to open up to others and still be comfortable, introverts ought to engage in conversations more, if this is what they want to do. The problem is that introverts don't like to talk without a reason, and are generally not quick to share their personal things with people who aren't close to them. So in order to have small talk with someone without getting into details you're not comfortable sharing, you should spend some time learning about the things that are great for light conversations, yet won't invade your privacy. You can talk about holidays or weather, for instance. Don't let these questions surprise you, but think about the possible answers before you're asked. In return, an extrovert will learn to appreciate your efforts and try to make a conversation more pleasant for you by asking you questions and listening carefully to what you're saying. Naturally, a conversation can easily become entertaining for both you and your new friend. Chapter 4. Characteristics of the introvert personality. How many times have you heard that someone is an introvert? In spite of the fact that many people think that defining an introvert is a task simple enough, when they are actually confronted with this type of people, extroverted people cannot decide whether the person they are interacting with is an introvert or not. Moreover, they mistake having an introverted personality for being extremely impolite and arrogant. Introverted people really do seem to be that way, but the truth is that they are everything but rude or full of themselves. They don't hold their heads up in the sky. They are daydreaming. They don't refuse to talk to you, and they certainly don't think you're not an interesting interlocutor, but they want to tell only the things that make sense to them. Unfortunately, extroverted people are usually not able to see these things, which is why it is important to learn something about introverts and try to understand their point of view. Introverted people have few friends. One of the main characteristics of introverted people is that they don't have a need to surround themselves with as many people as they can. Rather than this, they enjoy the company of very few people, but these relationships they form are very deep and meaningful. Although this circle of friends introverts form around themselves is a relatively small one, it is nevertheless one of the most important things in their life. Seeking purpose in everything and being cautious. Another characteristic that describes this type of people very well is that they need to have a reason to react. When they find a reason, they think about what they will do, and only then do they react. So you shouldn't be surprised if you don't get an instant answer in a discussion with an introverted person, because they are aware of their own feelings. Introverts like to think about what they say to others. They are more sensitive than extroverted people, and they don't like getting into arguments. Lonely and out of this world. Introverted people tend to spend certain periods of time alone, and this can be something an extrovert will have trouble understanding. Namely, introverts will enjoy taking some time for themselves, and they'll use this time efficiently, exploring the depths of their souls and seeking the roots of their innermost emotions. This is what extroverts might interpret as not common, owing to the fact that they recharge their batteries by spending time with other people. The strength of sales introverts. So, introverts have game, and quite a bit of it to be exact. The advantages and strengths of introverts are multiple, and those who know how to draw upon such strengths have excelled greatly in the sales field as a result, many times catching critics by surprise. Calm in the storm. The first major strength involves composure. Often mistaken for being too reserved or shy, many introverts instead sit back to give themselves a better vantage point. They are able to then avoid getting emotionally entangled in the discussion and see all the players engaged as well as their various interests and directions. The more knowledge a person has, obviously, the more he can strategize and manage the sale at an advantage. Composure also has other side effects that work on the benefit of the introvert salesperson. Being calm and collected has the general effect of putting clients at ease rather than being tense or defensive. Too often, aggressive salespeople are either not trusted or annoying. Potential clients clam up and walk away early when they feel they are being led down a path, often switching to another provider who comes across a bit more honest and less salesy. The introvert, however, gets around this problem. There is no emotional push, no aggression, no hard sell. Instead, he comes in, provides the facts, identifies the problem the consumer or client has, and then offers a viable, practical solution. By getting the discussion away from questioning a salesperson's honesty and back to focusing on the product or service, a sale and deal is far more likely. By allowing a sales meeting to be comfortable rather than an event of heavy pressure and hard selling, the introvert is able to land sales where the traditional salesperson would find significant resistance and often fails. Making the connection. Introvert salespeople put a high priority on relationship building with customers and clients. They're not into the deal for single sale and then off to the next one. Instead, they are far more likely to build long-term streams of revenue by working with the same customers again and again. Introvert salespeople understand and take advantage of the fact that it was 10 times easier to work with known customers than trying to develop a new relationship with unknown leads. Instead, they leverage known contacts and client interests and keep producing new sales again and again. This is done by focusing on win-win scenarios where both the introvert and the client both realize a significant gain in the deal negotiated. Lending an ear. Introverts have a keen, well-trained ability at listening to people. Often customers want to tell people what they are dealing with, explain the issue, and discuss what really matters to them. Unfortunately, many salespeople already have a script they feel they need to follow to make a sale. The two don't mix. Instead, the customer ends up being turned off because the salesperson won't do the most simply easy thing in selling: listening. Introverts, on the other hand, are quite adept at letting people talk around them. They take in all the details and statements, asking questions for more information, and getting the big picture that matters to the customer versus a script. In fact, many introverts will spend more than 2/3 of the sales meeting discussion asking the questions rather than wasting time on a pitch. Listening provides access to key information, especially details that are valuable to allowing the introvert salesperson to connect with the client personally versus in generic terms. In short, the strengths of composure, listening, and relationship building allow introverts to make inroads where many of the best traditional salespeople can't often break through, and they do it with far less effort, time, stress, and cost. Can an introvert have an exciting life and survive? Yes, many do. Many do not. Performers are surprisingly often introverts because performing provides a perfect platform for an introvert. A performance usually involves a structured situation with behavior that is well rehearsed. Furthermore, we can usually perform without those interruptions that force us to freeze or think too quickly that we encounter in social situations. Many of us even learned that we could pour out our feelings and enthusiasm with a feeling of safety we never found in daily life. But it's those unstructured situations we may be forced into between performances that trip us up and leave us exhausted, embarrassed, and insecure. Many exciting careers do not involve a structured performance space. Some adventurous lives require introverts to cope with a constantly changing environment, where skillful responses are required on the spur of the moment. This was such a challenge for one of my clients that he is now being treated for PTSD as he explores his introversion and its consequences. He now says of his career, "It was an exciting and adventurous life, and I wouldn't have missed it for anything in the world." But he sadly realizes that his mental and physical health suffered as a result of his career. His dawning realization that he is an introvert is helping him to reassess his considerable abilities, and to recognize that he could have made choices that would have helped him cope more successfully with his career. So the problem is really this. If you have a dream that involves adventure, and as an introvert you have a nervous system and mindset that says, "Slow down and be safe," you may be in what seems to be an eternal conflict situation. Either you live an adventure that may also affect your health long term, or you sadly put aside a dream, believing you can't cope with it. It doesn't have to be that way. You can live that life and even educate people around you to respect your needs as an introvert. Here are some coping techniques for introverts who want to accept the challenge. Develop introvert pride. You must have pride in your introversion and recognize the special talents you may have. Only in this way will you be authentic and honest with people around you, standing up for yourself and who you are. My client with PTSD now says that even the knowledge that he was an introvert and that was an acceptable thing to be would have helped him with his anxiety throughout his exciting but exhausting career. Speak up and set boundaries. One of the consequences of developing introvert pride is that you become willing to let people see your needs, and you become willing to ask that they honor those needs. Learn to take mini vacations. George Stephanopoulos, well-known TV host and commentator, attributes his ability to live a life in the spotlight as an introvert to his habit of meditating, taking small meditative breaks during the day to regain his energy. My client with PTSD now knows that he should always arrive 15 minutes early for any appointment or engagement, no matter how delightfully relaxed and social the occasion may be. He builds these mini vacations into his schedule, giving him time to take that refreshing quick break. Narrow down your choices. The introvert's tendency to acquire and store a lot of information from reading and just plain observing can result in an overly busy brain that suggests many options from which to choose. This can result in great creativity. It can also result in exhausted overwhelm. Peak performers learn to focus and not get entranced by too many opportunities that are not in the current game plan. This is another chance to say no, this time to your own brain. Every time you have another bright idea, ask yourself, is this in the current game plan? If the answer is no, then you must say no to its intrusion. Educate people around you as to what you need. Instead of pretending that everything is okay, tell people you need more time to make decisions, to back off, and think a situation through. Assure them you will provide far better responses under these circumstances. Point out instances where your thoughtfulness and reflecting paid off. Not everyone can create a business to his or her temperament, but even in an environment which you have not structured, you can create your own platform. Prepare your ideas in advance of a team meeting, ask for 5 minutes to present them in a coherent fashion, use body language, the uplifted hand that is a stop signal, to hold down interruptions until you finish. Chapter 5. Success Tips for Introvert People. First, let me talk about the strengths of introvert people. There are 2 strengths which are directly recognized for introvert people. Number 1 is that introvert people are very good listeners. One of the reasons is because introvert people, perhaps you are one of them if you're reading this right now, is that you don't talk much, and not talking much would only mean that you would be listening more. As a result, people perceive you as good listeners because you seem to pay attention to what people are saying. This really helps in building rapport, as people feel appreciated when they are being listened to. So the first strength of introvert people is that you are deemed as good listeners. The second strength of introvert people is that you are perceived as intelligent talkers. Again, I stress the word perceived because not talking a lot doesn't mean that you are an intelligent talker. It simply means that you choose when you want to talk. When people are listening to you when you start talking, it's perceived as, wow, now you have something valuable to say. So that is a perceived strength of introvert people. I say perceive in so many cases because these strengths may not be apparent to people and they only perceived at first. But you have to prove to people that you are a good listener and you are an intelligent talker by doing those acts. Let me now share with you the weaknesses of introvert people. The first weakness is that you are, or rather, introvert people are very often overlooked. This is a very fair world, or rather this is a very unfair world in a sense that very often you only get noticed if you open your mouth, or you act upon a decision. Introvert people have a habit of just sitting back, watching and listening. When supervisors or mentors are looking out for people, introvert people very often get overlooked. The second weakness that I've noticed is that introvert people have a lot of missed opportunities. Again, this is in the same line as being overlooked. Because of your lack of action and extrovertedness, very often mentors, supervisors, and employers do not give you the opportunity you're seeking. There are 2 success tips for introvert people. Number 1, use your strengths to build relationships. Introvert people does not mean that you are unable to make friends. In fact, being a good listener helps you bond with the person who is talking. Use your strength as a good listener and as an intelligent talker to build relationships with people. The second recommendation I have for introvert people is to stretch. In a best-selling book, Master Your Mind, Design Your Destiny, they mention that the ability to stretch beyond your comfort zone is one of the key factors to your success. Introverts can make the best leaders. 5 characteristics. Introverts draw on important strengths that extroverts may not have. But how do introverted leaders do it, and how do they survive in the extrovert business world? They seek to understand and play to their strengths. It has been reported over the years that a full 40% of executives have described themselves as introverts. What does this mean? It means that introverts, not just extroverts, have the right and important strength to lead organizations and businesses in a go-go extroverted business culture. Here are 5 characteristics that help introverted leaders build on their quiet strengths and succeed. Number 1, they think first and talk later. Introverted leaders think before they speak. Even in casual conversations, they listen and consider others' comments carefully, and then stop to reflect before responding. Learning by listening, not talking, is one of the traits that introverts consistently demonstrate. In fact, the most powerful person in a room is the most quiet and calm, to be heard amid all the organizational noise and chatter. Introverts can make the best leaders. Number 2, they focus on depth. Introverted leaders seek depth over breadth. They prefer to dig deep, delving into issues and ideas before moving on to new ones. They are drawn into meaningful conversation and not superficial chit-chat, and they know how to ask great questions and really listen to the answers. Introverts can make the best leaders. Number 3, they exude calm. Introverted leaders are low-key. In times of crisis, they project a reassuring and calm confidence. They speak softly and slowly, no matter the intensity of the conversation or circumstances. Whenever they are getting ready for a meeting or speech, their secret to success is in the preparation. They often write and plan meeting notes and questions well in advance. This is the same for important speeches and talks which they rehearse out loud. The introvert can make the best leaders. They psych themselves up internally, quieting negative thoughts by reinforcing and framing the upcoming event more positively. Number 4, they let their fingers do the talking. Introverted leaders prefer writing to talking. The written word often helps them better articulate their position. This helps leverage the opportunity of a social networking site such as Facebook and Twitter to be out there with employees, customers, and stakeholders in discussing feedback and ideas. Creating internal blogs on positive events such as public speaking and meetings, then posting and sharing these experiences can provide others with coaching and support. Number 5, they embrace solitude. Introverted leaders are energized by spending time alone. They suffer from people exhaustion and need to retreat to recharge their batteries. These regular timeouts actually fuel their thinking, creativity, decision-making, and when the pressure is on, help make them more responsive and not reactive in situations. When introverts honor their inner pull, they can do their best work. In managing interruptions, they also manage people's expectations. So when reflecting on these top 5 characteristics, do you not think introverts can make the best leaders? Introverts in the workplace. How they operate, how they succeed. In modern behavioral terms, introvert is used to describe individuals who are most comfortable in the inner life of the mind, come across as more reserved, and are less likely to seek numerous or large interactions. They represent approximately half of the population. In the workplace, their presence is less obvious and misunderstood, though their ability to actively listen at a very deep level makes them major idea contributors. There's risk in confusing their self-containment with a lack of ambition. American society is often described as being extroverted. What you see is what you get, say it like you mean it, brainstorm your way through the problem are all examples of an extroverted approach. Coupled with a disproportionate percentage of extroverts rising into top management, and you begin to understand how the group that really doesn't need the spotlight, the introverts, can seem a bit alien, maybe labelled not a team player, or ignored. This is a huge oversight as introverts play an important role in work groups and can share recognition with ease and grace. Many people are familiar with the designations extrovert and introvert from the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This widely used assessment tool, using less than 100 questions, looks at how the participant approaches and operates in the world. One of the key factors considered is extroversion versus introversion. With electronic imaging clearly showing formerly unknown regions of the brain, we now better understand what many had intuited. Some people's brains just work and respond differently. Case in point, when it comes to extroverts, we know they require a higher level of stimulation to certain regions of the brain in order to register a response than self-described introverts. Anyone who has gone into a noisy, bright room can pick the introverts out instantly. They're generally the ones with their hands over their ears, shading their eyes. They're also more likely to leave large events early as they get their fill quickly and risk overwhelm. If you were to peg introverts, you'd call them gatherers rather than hunters. They collect thoughts often in solitude or away from the fray, because their inner conversations are so rich they are content being alone for extended periods of time. In order to accumulate and process, they must have space, real and psychological. So how can you best manage and work with or as an introvert? Give them a quiet space in which to work. A bullpen is an introvert's idea of hell. Allow them time to process thoughts. Press an introvert for an immediate answer or spontaneity, and their response may sound disjointed or ill-prepared. Neither is the case. Don't confuse lack of words with an absence of ideas. Thoughts, rather than verbiage, are an introvert's default. Limit interruptions. The re-entry post-interruptions takes time and wastes their energy. Appreciate their creativity is processed and can't always be expressed in a soundbite or tagline. Let them recharge alone. Don't push activity or camaraderie as a repair or cheer up. You won't hear happiness as being an expressed goal for this type. Contentment and fulfillment are more likely desired. Never assume that because they hate holiday parties they wouldn't welcome a one-on-one coffee. You'll do yourself a disservice if you operate on the premise that introverts dislike the company of people. To the contrary, they are fascinated with human contact, especially in small numbers and in limited doses. Create opportunities for introverts to talk because when they speak, they actually have well-constructed thoughts to express. Know that introversion is not the same as shyness. Shy individuals find it painful to socialize. Introverts just aren't the center of attention and enjoy people. Keep in mind, a closed door is a means of reducing unnecessary stimulation and recharging. It's not a statement of anger or avoidance. Nothing's wrong, I just shut the door. The advantages of diversity in the workplace. I don't mean cultural, racial, gender or sexual orientation. It includes temperament. Most groups, teams, and even couples would benefit from a mix of temperaments. Part of that is a blend of extroverts and introverts. Chapter 6. Workplace Communication Tips for Introverts. There are significant differences in the way extroverts and introverts communicate at work, and introverts need to be aware of these differences if they're to get the most out of workplace communications. Perhaps the most noticeable difference is that extroverts are quicker communicators than introverts. Quicker in terms of starting conversations and in the speed at which they talk. Extroverts tend to ask a lot of questions and shift quickly from topic to topic, and introverts can be overwhelmed by listening to an extroverted speaker while processing their own thoughts about what the speaker is saying. In contrast, introverts often hesitate before talking and may take a long time to explain things. Introverts may also mumble to themselves, start talking in the middle of a thought, or suffer from a tip-of-the-tongue problem where they can't retrieve the word they want to use. Introverts can also struggle to be fluent in a conversation if they aren't very familiar with the subject they are talking about. This is partly because extroverts tend to know a little about a lot of topics, while introverts tend to have more in-depth knowledge of a smaller range of subjects. Extroverts also tend to be better at using humor and body language to keep a conversation flowing. Here's some communication tips for introverts who want to get more out of workplace communications. Always do a bit of preparation or research before important meetings, phone calls, or interviews. That way, introverts are more likely to think of something to say when put on the spot or engaged in debate with louder, faster-thinking extroverts. Take notes during meetings. This allows introverts to be less dependent on their weaker short-term memory and frees up mental resources so they can be more fluent in conversation. Check for indicators of understanding when you finish making a comment. Sometimes introverts make incomplete statements and don't realize the person, or persons they are talking to, hasn't heard or understood what they have just said. Talk more loudly. Introverts tend to talk too quietly, so if in doubt it's better to up the volume a bit. At social events and conferences, talk to quieter extroverts or more talkative introverts rather than loud extroverts or retiring introverts. Loud extroverts can be poor listeners, while it can be hard to initiate a conversation with very quiet introverts. If managing a mixed group of introverts and extroverts, avoid group brainstorming sessions, which often tend to be dominated by opinionated extroverts. Instead, get everyone to prepare their ideas beforehand, and then get people to contribute their thoughts in a group meeting. Tips for being outgoing when you have an introverted personality. Telling what the difference is between an introvert and an extrovert can be a challenging task. These two types of people are often difficult to tell apart, and one of the main reasons why this is so is the fact that introverts are not easy to recognize. Even if you knew all personality traits that define an introvert, you would have a hard time recognizing one even if they would talk to you and show you their unique approach to life when trying to win an argument. It takes a lot of time as well as energy to get to know an introverted person. Can an introverted person be outgoing? Many people wrongly believe that an introverted person cannot be outgoing. Introverts are seen as not being sociable, although this does not have to do much with reality. People who have an introverted personality can be very socially active and have many friends. Moreover, they enjoy spending time with people, but they do not need to be around people as often as extroverts do. Introverted personality. How to be outgoing. Introverted people like socializing with people around them, but they have to put more effort into interacting with others in order to create friendships and gain new acquaintances than people who are extroverted. Here will be discussed some tips intended to help introverts gain more friends and become more socially active. Firstly, you need to know that you should try to be more outgoing only if this is what you want. Introverts often try to fit into their social groups without really enjoying this. Therefore, before trying to fit in with the others, try finding people you are comfortable spending time with, be it introverts or extroverts. After you find friends who you like spending time with, you should try to work on your social skills. This means that you should focus on how to make yourself more approachable. You need to be aware of the fact that introverts are often perceived as arrogant and rude, so you should put some time into making yourself easier to approach. Being outgoing does not mean that you should go out every night, but rather learn how to get the best out of socializing with people around you. Moreover, becoming more outgoing does not mean that you will have to forget about spending time alone when you feel like it. Instead, these tips should help you balance these two, and be able to enjoy solitude, but also try to make enough room for other people in your life. Assertion skills for shy introverts. There are many books at libraries and bookstores on assertion skills, so I will not go into the mechanics of how to be assertive. However, I will point out that shy introverts need to look at assertion skills as one way to help reduce interpersonal struggles, stand up for themselves, and use assertive communication skills so no one takes advantage of them. Assertion skills are the way to communicate feelings, needs, and wants in a positive and confident manner. Shy and introverted individuals may resist getting out of their shells by returning to their comfortable routines and patterns of behavior, instead of using their learned assertion skills to leave this comfort zone. Shy introverts typically have difficulty communicating with others. I realize that standing up for yourself and using assertive communication skills can be a little anxiety-ridden or nerve-wracking at first, but after a little practice you will feel more confident that you can handle various types of situations without uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The more you think and act assertively, the more you will become less afraid of speaking up and more confident in yourself. You need to know and work with your personality style. Some extroverts may think they can take advantage of you because they see you as a shy or introverted person, and they equate the shyness and introversion with as passive and easily manipulated. It does not matter whether people know you as a shy introvert or as an extrovert. As long as you can be assertive, you can show other people that their perception of you is not what they initially thought you to be. When you use your assertiveness skills, others will see that they cannot take advantage of you. Having the tools to stand up for your rights is important. How and if you use them is totally up to you. Here are some tools you, as shy introverts, can use to put your new assertion skills into action when interacting with others. Number 1. Shift your mindset. Being assertive is a choice. Many consider being assertive not as a skill but a mindset that people learn to use. Shy introverts must get into the habit of becoming more assertive for themselves, or they will miss out on opportunities, as well as have others take advantage of them. Number 2. Be persistent. Are you held accountable for taking the necessary actions to achieve your goals? Do you give up easily the first time someone says, "It can't be done"? Staying focused, staying consistent, and staying on task can help you accomplish win-win solutions. Don't give up. Your newfound assertion skills can help you get to where you want to be. Number 3. Find your focus of control. In believing you are the master of your own fate, what are you doing to help yourself? Where is your focus? For you to control what happens to you, even as a shy or introverted individual, you must strive for being a better you. Using assertion techniques will give you the belief you need to use your potential that will help you move forward. Number 4. Play on your strengths. In most respects, you must use your strengths and work on your weaknesses. For example, when introverts speak to others, it is mainly when they have something to say that is worthwhile and meaningful, something they have given a lot of thought to. Most shy introverts have good listening skills, and this is something of great value. These are skills that introverts need to work on, because most of the time they like to just hear themselves talk, so they talk rather than listen. Discover your own personal strengths, both in your speaking and listening skills. Then take action to use these skills to expand yourself in other areas of your life. Number 5. Show more confidence. To become more assertive, you must get past the thinking and feeling that you lack confidence in yourself. You may not act as if you were an extrovert, but there may be times when you want more adventure in your life. Believe in your skills, talents, and abilities. After some time, they will become a part of you and gradually show through in all parts of your life. Most importantly, when you talk with other people, getting to the point of what you want to say to them will help you get what you want. Number 6. Cultivate win-win relationships. As the gold standard of relationships, being assertive enables you to stand up for yourself and not allow others to take advantage of you. This is done by using the skills you have of listening, talking, and negotiating with other people in your interactions with them. You will be able to get what you want and give the other person what they want. Number 7. Reward yourself. Through learning to be more assertive, you will not miss out on opportunities that previously you would have allowed to pass you by, and now you will use it to assist you in moving you forward in your life. Acting as if is a powerful tool. The more confident you act, the more convinced your mind is that you are confident. Go to a movie or out to dinner when you clinch a deal. Celebrate your promotion. You've earned it. Chapter 7. Conclusion. Some of the greatest minds ever were introverts. Now, is being an introvert really bad? Being introvert does not mean that you cannot be a bit more extroverted. It only means that you have to stretch more than the extroverted people. Bear in mind that stretching does not mean you jump off a cliff with no parachute into the water. That's not stretching. That's suicide. Stretching can be done in progressive stages. If you know an introverted person and you aren't one yourself, try to understand that they are not the same as you. They have their own way of looking at things. The same way you find it exhilarating to spend time with people around you, An introverted person will occasionally enjoy solitude and having some time for themselves. Being an extrovert is often encouraged in our overly talkative society, but having introverted traits is the bomb.com. Introverts are among the most successful people in the world. As an introvert, you need to find your own ingredients to success. For as an introvert, while you may not appear as if you have mastered the ability to act like an extrovert, you have the ability to demonstrate that you can be just as successful as other people. Introverts have to train themselves well enough to work through their reserved characteristics and know what they want to do with their career. As an introverted entrepreneur, you have a lot to offer the business world, but you still prefer to grab as little of the spotlight as possible. Do not let being an introvert stop you from reaching your goals. You have the ability and skills to get the job done. Thanks again for buying my book. If you have a minute, please leave a review. I take reviews seriously and always look at them. This way you are helping me provide you better content that you will love in the future. A review doesn't have to be long, just 1 or 2 sentences and a number of stars you find appropriate. Hopefully 5, of course. Also, if I think your review is useful, I will mark it as helpful. This will help you become more known on Amazon as a decent reviewer and will ensure that more authors will contact you with free ebooks in the future. This is how we can help each other. Take a look at these other books too: Bipolar Disorder, Borderline Disorder, and Schizophrenia. This has been Introvert, The Power and Benefits of Introversion Explained. Written by Tyler Bourdain, narrated by Thomas Cassidy. Copyright 2018 by Vincent Newt. Production copyright 2018 by Vincent Newt.
Introvert, The Quiet Power in a World of Noise. Written by Rita Chester. Narrated by Kelly McGee. Introduction. Go and enjoy yourself. So you stayed inside your room the whole day and binge-watched your favorite TV series while eating pizza and ice cream. If your idea of having fun is lying on your bed in pajamas while reading your favorite novel or watching movies, chances are you are an introvert. If you are that guy in the club who stands in the corner while everyone else is dancing to the DJ beat, or if you're totally fine with staying at home the whole day whenever your 2 or 3 friends are not available, you might possess the personality called introversion. But just because you don't binge-watch TV series the whole day in your pajamas doesn't mean you are not an introvert. Neither dancing along with the crowd nor being bored at home guarantees non-introversion. In fact, some of those guys you see often in parties and nightclubs can be introverts. That guy who's good at public speaking, or those kids who perform at parks might actually be introverts as well. Confused yet? Have you ever identified yourself as an introvert, but you have that intense passion to perform in public? Have you ever been so sure about being an introvert until you felt the tendencies to feel unease with a huge crowd? Or have you ever gotten tired of analyzing your personality, so you thought you could just consider yourself somewhere in between, perhaps an ambivert? The truth is, personality is not something you can tell just by thinking of one characteristic or two. Personalities are more complicated to analyze than you think. It is not a matter of being shy or being confident, nor is it a choice between being amiable and being unfriendly. Your capacity as a person to collect a range of varied characteristics often starts the confusion about which type of personality you fall into. If you are at that point in life where you start questioning what personality you possess, or you find it hard to understand yourself, you should strive for a deeper understanding of the different personality types. Learning is the key to understanding yourself. If you feel like you have high chances of being an introvert, but you're not sure about it, or worse, you don't want to be one because you think it is hard to be an introvert in a world dominated by extroverts, you should dive deeper into this book. Learn more about yourself through the chapters. Embrace your personality by fully understanding it, and get ready to discover all the potentials in you. On to Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Introversion and the Signs. Introversion, as identified by a number of psychological theories about personality, is one of the 2 general categories into which a certain person's personality may fall. A Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst named Carl Gustav Jung developed a particular theory that highlights introversion and extroversion as one of the major categories when it comes to identifying personalities. Jung's theory of psychological types assumes that attitudes dictate someone's personality type. Under such theory, attitude refers to either the inward or outward direction of one's interest. If a person's conscious interest flows inward, he is said to be an introvert. Introverts are generally quiet as they are reserved and naturally private. They enjoy the idea of being alone and having time for themselves. Hence, they tend to be more self-aware than extroverts do. And since they are inward-looking, they make themselves more available in observing their own thoughts and emotions. They love discovering things about themselves, and they are more open to internal realizations. They are also considered talented individuals, which is not a surprise, for they are known to have a vast imagination. If extroverts gain their energy during social interactions, introverts lose theirs. They have tendencies to get their energies drained when they are surrounded by a lot of people for too long. This is the main reason why introverts need to recharge, and that is done by spending time alone and reflecting on one's actions. When extroverts express themselves out loud, introverts listen to them. They are natural-born observers, which is also why they have a deep understanding of their external environment. They tend to be more subjective While extroverts tend to be more objective, introverts focus on how the world can impact them, while extroverts think more about how they can have an impact on the world. Signs that you are an introvert. If you ever identify yourself to most of the characteristics mentioned here, there is a high possibility that you actually are an introvert. Although it is not really safe to just assume that you are an introvert based on some characteristics, there are definite ways to tell if you are one. You enjoy being alone. Walking alone around a park, watching movies in your room, chilling alone at home, reading your favorite books while in pajamas. If even just the thought of these things make you feel happy, you must be an introvert. Your comfort zone is being with yourself. People would often call you a loner for this trait. You are as free as your thoughts when you are alone, because you can do anything you basically want. Besides, aloneness helps free you of distractions and energy-draining people. It's the best time to boost your imagination, recollect your observations, and organize your thoughts. You might not be able to explain that feeling of safety and comfort you get when you're alone, but you know it for yourself that there is something about solitude that makes you want it more often than not. Prolonged interaction with people makes you feel drained. Have you ever attended a crowded party, and in the middle of it, you suddenly get the urge to go home because you felt like you've already done too much talking to the random people in there? If you have, then you are definitely an introvert. You find being surrounded by a bunch of people tiring. Your energy is drained during prolonged social interactions. As a result, your own mind demands a recharge. And for an introvert, what this means is spending time by themselves. You hate small talk. Small talk are a waste of time to you if you are an introvert. Of course, there are instances where you have to entertain them, but small talk in general tends to be boring for you. This is because you are a deep person with a deep personality, often holding the deepest thoughts. You are not meant for regular conversation, especially not the type to like gossip. You are more interested in the earth and its mysteries. Things like the possible existence of aliens, religion, politics, news and events, anything that enriches your mind and gets your thoughts going. Despite this, do remember that you lose your energy when socializing, so choose who to interact with is something you should be mindful of. You have a small circle of friends. One way to identify your personality is to look at the number of friends you have. If you can count all of them on one hand, you probably are an introvert. You tend to be picky when it comes to people whom you call friends. Thus, you only have a small circle of them. This isn't because you're antisocial. Instead, the reason for it is because you tend to be choosier with the company you keep. They need to understand your personal need for solitude first and foremost. They also shouldn't be the type to drain you of energy. Keep in mind that there are people who can be energy vampires, and in most cases, they cannot help it. What you can do instead is to limit your interaction with them. You are independent. You prefer working alone because you want to keep everything under your absolute control. It does not matter if you work faster or slower than other people. You love working at your own pace. Solitude is not just a means of emotional recharge to you, but it is also a way to provide yourself with mental satisfaction. You are certainly at peace when you do tasks alone. There are no contradicting ideas, thus no confusion is created either. You are confident that all parts of the job are done with the same level of competence. It doesn't mean that you don't need people, though. It simply means that you don't find it necessary to ask for help all the time, most especially when you believe you can do things by yourself. You are quite aware of yourself. You know your flaws very well. You know your weaknesses. You also know your strengths. If you have spent a lot of time discovering yourself and everything that makes you, then you might consider yourself a certified introvert. Self-awareness is your shield against any disappointments that might come your way. You analyze situations based on your knowledge about yourself. You know your limits and your capabilities. You also know when to hold back and when to push yourself to the limit. Having this kind of awareness can save a lot of energy on your part. It takes the guessing game out of what actions you should take next, because you will always choose the one that plays to what you know you're capable of. You are reserved. Being a reserved person, you will often find it hard to confess your thoughts and feelings to anybody, to the extent that other people often mistake you for being passive and apathetic. You don't get to react as obviously as extroverts do whenever something emotional pops up. Your silence makes you look like you are not interested in talking to people, but the truth is you are. However, you are only capable of fully expressing your emotions and thoughts to people you are comfortable with, the ones you trust and consider to be close to you. You are also a vault of your own secrets, and nobody knows the code to it. You're not comfortable with sharing your secrets to people, especially to the public. This isn't easy for you to do at all, despite being coaxed to. In fact, you might even get very uncomfortable about it. You feel like you are giving a portion of yourself to people every time you share something about yourself. Revealing your secrets is like undressing yourself in public, so you'd probably rather wither away than tell them. This kind of vulnerability can't be expected from introverts. You appreciate privacy. Personal space is a big deal to you. You get conscious whenever you feel like your privacy is getting invaded. You are a private person, which is why you tend to settle for less friends. You never like it when people call too much attention to you. You don't feel the need for an audience to witness almost everything that you do. You are a keen observer. The moments when extroverts use their mouths to talk are the moments when you would use all the other senses to observe. You have a serious curiosity towards existence. You sense that every detail in your surrounding has something to do with you and your life. You may not be speaking openly about them, but you know things more than what most people think you do. You sense true emotions and honest feelings. This is because you also tend to be more sensitive than others. You are a good listener. Being observant is actually linked to the ability to feel people's sincerity. Your deep understanding of the environment you move in makes it easy for you to listen to other people. Listening to you is not only about being present and ready to hear a person's story or confession. It is also about understanding the person's point and purpose. You do not listen to reply. You listen to understand. You don't just hear their words, but you feel their emotions as well. You are able to put yourself in the speaker's shoes to better relate to their feelings. Your honest way of listening also enables you to detect lies and dishonesty. You consider it either a gift or a curse or both. You have a deep appreciation of other living things. You find eye contact with people awkward, but you don't hesitate saying hi to animals whenever you pass them by. You consider nature as your friend. You appreciate life by feeling the connection of your existence to other living things. You love going on nature trips, mountain hikes, underwater adventures, and interacting with animals. You are naturally attached to nature, and that is why you possess a deeper understanding of your surroundings. This innate sense of connection with nature lies at the essence of your strengths and your ability to be alone in the first place without feeling lonely. And that is a talent not all people possess, so consider it something beneficial. Some people don't get it. They think introverts are these shy, awkward, unsuccessful people that don't achieve anything in life and don't know how to interact with others. This is far from true, and in the next chapter, I will expand on that. Chapter 2: Misconceptions about Introverts. Introverts go through a never-ending process of being misinterpreted and labeled as something they are not. Stereotyping introverts is so common these days that introverts themselves do not even bother correcting each and every misconception they hear. In this chapter, every false idea about introverts will be corrected and explained. Your understanding about introversion will be further elaborated on as we debunk any myths about introverts. Sometimes the best way to learn what is right is to get to know what is wrong. Introverts are shy. This is definitely the biggest myth about introverts. People think introversion and shyness are synonymous. Being shy is caused by a lot of factors. Although there are instances where introversion causes a child to grow up timid, it does not necessarily mean that all introverts are bound to grow up in the same way. If a child is born an introvert, they would often find thinking about and imagining things more interesting than talking to other children. But because other children do not see things the same way, they would regard him as odd. However, the child does not lose his confidence that way. He loses it when he finds his form of expression being suppressed by external factors such as bullying, belittling, and shaming. Your personality alone does not dictate the level of your openness to other people. Extroverts are not born confident. Confidence comes mostly as a matter of personal experience. Introverts are antisocial. Just because you don't talk as much as other people do, this doesn't mean that you are antisocial. Being antisocial is more than just not wanting human interaction. It is characterized by violence, irresponsibility, and an absolute lack of concern towards society and other people. People who are antisocial have tendencies to detach completely from normal and proper human behavior. They blame others for their distress. They lack empathy towards others' misery. Introverts, in contrast, are very sensitive to others' feelings. They are concerned with the society's welfare. Introverts also tend to be passionate in understanding other people, as they don't own the same qualities others have, particularly the traits extroverts possess. They do not hate talking to other people, although they tend to moderate their interaction by reducing unnecessary talk. But it is only because they lose energy upon excessive interaction, and not because they carry hate towards people. Unlike antisocial people, introverts often play a positive role in society. They balance the extra lively energy of extroverts and help calm the atmosphere. Introversion and being antisocial are completely different things. In fact, they are almost two opposite things. Another great way to see the difference between the two is that introverts make an extra effort to be more involved in society, while antisocial people despise any form of involvement. Introversion is a form of social anxiety. Introversion is a personality and not some sort of mental illness. Anxiety is characterized by fear and uneasiness towards a particular subject or situation. Silence, on the other hand, just means an introvert might be thinking at the moment, or he simply does not feel the need to talk. Introverts do not get anxious about speaking. In fact, their silence is the exact opposite of anxiety. They need to process their thoughts very well, so they tend to be calm even in a public setting, as it helps them a lot. And although there are some introverts who get easily anxious when it comes to social interaction, introversion in itself is not a form of anxiety. Being alone is sad. Another pointless accusation with regard to introversion is that if you are a loner, you are sad. A good majority of people do not get how happy introverts become when they find time to be alone for a while. Unlike other people, introverts do not overdramatize aloneness. They are used to it. Solitude energizes introverts just as much as parties do to extroverts. It is their way of refreshing their minds and relaxing for a little. This is enough reason for them to choose being alone instead of going out and spending time with a group of people. Nobody else can dictate what makes you happy aside from yourself. True happiness comes from within. You find it in yourself and not in your friends. Introverts are unemotional. Apathetic individuals are the worst labels to give people who are introverted. Introverts are functioning human beings too, and they tend to care more than others. They also feel what other people normally feel. The only difference is that they do not react excessively when things happen, or they just choose to not react at all. This absence of a reaction does not automatically imply insensitivity. Introverts, in contrast, are more sensitive about their surroundings. They feel sincerity, honesty, and other emotions which are not easily felt by other individuals. Introverts hate talking to people. It is true that introverts love listening, but it does not make them hate talking. It's like considering a person's love for meat as enough to conclude that the same person hates vegetables. Two things can be related without being opposite. You've learned from the first chapter that introverts are known for being really great listeners. That is exactly the reason why they tend to talk less. You cannot talk while listening or listen without talking. There are days when an introvert just chooses to stay silent when not talked to, and that is completely normal. Introverts also tend to filter what they say, often taking their time with choosing the proper words to use, making things slower for them. They do not fake it. They just try to express kinder words and make honest expressions hurt less. They believe the world is harsh enough without people offending each other. They hate small talk, yes, but talking to people in general, no. In fact, they could talk all day long to a single person about topics which capture both their interests. The way their thoughts are processed into words depends on the kind and amount of audience they have to deal with. The lesser the people to talk to, the more open an introvert becomes. An introvert is not a team player. Wrong. An introvert can play well solo or in teams. You should know by now that an introvert's independence allows them to do work alone and manage things under their own control. That is exactly the same reason why they can also work great in a team. Being able to manage a task alone means they are able to understand each and every part of it. Knowing how each part of a certain task functions makes an introvert an asset. They can delegate tasks properly and proceed with the work with an actual plan. Being aware of your role and purpose is the bottom line of being a team player. It has nothing to do with your personality. Introverts have a better analysis of how things work together as a whole. They level the quality of their performance to the quality that makes the other members of the team produce. They adjust to changes accordingly and make their decisions based on what they perceive as best for the team. Public is not an environment for introverts. If being in public is not a place for introverts, they would all have to quit school or their job, where they interact with at least 20 other people every day. Being in public is a place for everyone, and this means all personality types, including introverts. There are public speakers who are actually introverts. A lot of performers you see in theaters, concerts, and talent shows can be introverts. The best actors you admire on cam might be introverts as well. The thing is, introverts have always had something to showcase in public, but not all of them choose to present themselves there. Being in public is your own choice, not your personality. Introverts are not fun to be with. People have different definitions of what it means to have fun. Some people have fun by attending parties and celebrations. Others have fun by playing games or sports. And introverts? Well, introverts have fun by being alone. An introvert actually considers themselves great company. Being alone is being free, and being free is basically being happy. But that is not the only way introverts have fun. They also have fun by being at parties, dancing with friends, playing different games, and winning prizes, attending concerts and music festivals, swimming at the beach, stargazing, and basically any other thing that an average person would consider fun. Yes, they can do all of that. Introverts are actually happy people. They may not appear to be happy at first, but once you get to know them, they can actually be the funniest and most inspiring people you will ever meet. It is very much like meeting someone with a secret, except the secret is actually their personality. Chapter 3. Types of Introverts. We've already established the complexity of the introvert personality in the previous chapters. You might be wondering by now why some of the basic signs of being an introvert apply to you while some do not. Does that mean you are not an introvert? Or perhaps you are a semi-introvert? Or maybe you're just someone who has a tendency to change from being an introvert to an extrovert? Worry not, because the truth is, being an introvert is too complex to just label someone as being one. You do not have to possess all the characteristics associated with introversion to be a complete introvert. According to Jonathan Cheek, professor of personality psychology, introverts can be further categorized into 4 types: social introverts, thinking introverts, anxious introverts, and restrained introverts. They can easily be remembered by using the acronym STAR. If you have a strong feeling that you are an introvert, but you are somehow holding back because you do not possess all the characteristics, here are the different types of introverts explained. Try to identify which one you belong to by honestly answering the corresponding questions after each type. Social introverts. Social introversion covers a majority of the common traits people normally identify with introverts. It is the preference for a smaller social group than a large one. Social introverts identify few people as their close friends and tend to only socialize with them. It does not have to be a group, though. Social introverts are also fine with enjoying the company of 2 people, or the company of one best friend, or having no company at all. Do you prefer celebrating occasions with a few friends rather than a bunch of people? Do you have a close relationship with your friends? Do you see being around other people not necessary most of the time? Do you prefer doing things alone? Do you not say much about yourself? Do you feel drained during social celebrations, despite the fact that you enjoyed yourself? If you answered yes to all these questions, you are definitely a social introvert. Thinking introverts. Social events are not a problem to thinking introverts. Although they still possess dominant qualities introverts are known to have. They are introspective, self-reflective, insightful, and imaginative. These introverts have great control over their thinking. Professor Cheek even said they are capable of creating a fantasy world in their mind through their imagination. Questions to ask yourself. Do you regularly assess your thoughts and ideas about yourself? Do you imagine yourself being in the same situation as the character whenever you watch movies or read books? Do you always pay attention to what you feel? Do you value your own evaluation about yourself? Do you sometimes daydream and fantasize about your future? If you answered yes to all these questions, you are a certified thinking introvert. Anxious introverts. Unlike other introverts who seek solitude to recharge, anxious introverts seek it to escape social situations. They easily feel awkward at social interactions and are not quite confident about themselves. They are the type of introverts who get anxious about several things. They have tendencies to remember all the awkwardness and embarrassing moments that happen throughout the day before sleeping. Although being alone does not make the anxiety fade away, it helps these introverts cope with their current situation and analyze the positive things they can do next. It also recharges their energy just like it does to other introverts. Questions to ask yourself. Do you often feel like everyone is looking at you? Do you often think about the bad memories of your past? Do you get ashamed or angry about defeat? Do you still feel alone even when you are in a group of friends? Do you find it hard to overcome your shyness in new situations? If you answered yes to all these questions, most probably you are an anxious introvert. Restrained introverts. This type of introversion is the perfect example of what a reserved person is. They tend to be silent most of the time, and they always process their thoughts before speaking or taking action. Another thing that distinguishes restrained introverts from other types of introverts is their slow pace. They do not engage in activities as soon as they wake up. They usually think about things and assess probable consequences before they perform an action. A restrained introvert tends to start their day a little late and is generally not a morning person. Questions to ask yourself. Do you find it hard to be off and running as soon as you wake up in the morning? Do you take things slow and easy in order for you to relax? Do you process your thoughts slowly before speaking? Do you often feel the need to scrutinize the situation first before taking any action? Do you often feel sluggish? If you answered yes to all these questions, then consider yourself as a restrained introvert. Chapter 4. Disadvantages of being an introvert. At this moment, you have already been able to identify what type of introvert you are. And if you have, the next thing you need to know is that there are two sides to every coin. From identifying your personality, it is only proper to continue your understanding by introducing the disadvantages of being an introvert too. Identify which among these weaknesses apply to you and analyze them as early as now. That way, you can develop your own solutions on how to turn these things into strength. Overly self-centered. Having a full understanding of yourself is actually great. Not every person has that, but spending all your time understanding only yourself and no one else can be dangerous. As an introvert, you have a tendency to become overly self-absorbed. Being confident about yourself and your knowledge, you tend to act based solely on your own interpretation of things. You consider your thoughts as always right, because your mind is capable of thoroughly processing each of them. You firmly believe that you are a competent individual, which is actually a healthy way of seeing yourself. However, you tend to hold on to that idea too much. You think you know things well, and you can understand your environment more than anybody else can. Once you see incompetence among others, you tend to completely disregard their opinion and make your choices based absolutely on your own judgment. Yes, you are an introvert. You can grow and learn things alone. But along the process of growing, you tend to lose your vision on how important it is for you to see other people grow as well. You don't get inspired anymore. You see yourself as the best among the rest. And with that, you might miss the true meaning of success in life, being happy. Missing opportunities. Sometimes your way of playing safe in games does not do anything good for you. Admit it. It takes you 3 what-ifs, 5 should-haves, 2 thoughts of failure, 7 pictures of possible scenarios, 1 panic attack, 23 consecutive heartbeats, and a wish upon a falling star before taking any action. Whether this is an exaggeration or not, the point is, you are too afraid to take risks. One thing all types of introverts have in common is that they do not rush things. It is like a means of survival for them. Taking things slowly but surely is nice and all until you find yourself losing all the opportunities because others are already stealing them from you. You know your talents, potential, and capabilities very well, but all of these things come to nothing if you are not willing to take the risk of showcasing them. Some people are not sure of themselves, but they have the courage to try new things. They usually end up happy, either because they made it or because they learned from it. Do not be afraid to try. Trapped in imagination. Do you fantasize about getting married to your ultimate crush? Or daydream in class when you find the subject boring? What about imagining yourself in situations which are almost impossible to happen before you sleep? If you do, it is time for you to assess just how much time you spend doing such and start checking on your real-life situation more often. Given your wisdom and creativity as an introvert, you are most likely to be comfortable with your own thoughts. This trait is mostly found in thinking introverts. You don't just use your brain to answer questions in exams. You use it to create moments in your mind as well. Moderate daydreaming is normal for any person. It is a temporary escape from reality, especially from the not-so-favorable one. But the idea of escaping reality may go beyond just a normal temporary thing for you. Your unexpressed ideas can create a vault of memories which never happened to you in real life. You may lose grip on reality and be trapped into your own imagination. Remember, your mind may be powerful, but you are definitely more powerful than it. Put it under your control and be careful on how you use your thoughts. You certainly do not want your introversion to evolve into a form of mental illness. Overthinking. If there was ever a competition for overthinking, the top 50 contestants would have all been introverts. Introverts are the best at overthinking. No wonder they are labeled as the most imaginative individuals around. This is because they can imagine even the most unlikely things happening. There is a healthy amount of being open to thoughts of different possibilities, but some introverts tend to overdo it. You always have time to think because you always provide time for yourself to be alone. The only problem is that there are times when you find your thoughts uncontrollable, and it is hard for you to ignore them. You spend some of your nights bombarding yourself with what-ifs and should-haves. You sometimes overanalyze things, which makes tasks complicated, even when they are not. Most of the introverts experience the same thing, and most of them have also learned to overcome it through time. If you are having an unreasonable amount of sleepless nights, or you experience getting abnormally anxious for no apparent reason, you should consider consulting a psychologist or psychiatrist. There are some people, commonly adults, who are prone to this. It is not a matter of being an introvert or extrovert anymore. It is a health issue that can be properly addressed with the help of professionals. Fear of being misunderstood. In a normal day scenario, introverts are often interpreted by people who are not introverts themselves. As a result, their actions are not well understood, or worse, not understood at all. To cope with this, many introverts simply isolate themselves from the majority of people who cannot relate to them. They find it easier than actually explaining themselves to people. If you fall under the anxious or restrained introvert category, you probably feel the unexplainable fear of being misunderstood by society. You cannot easily open up even to people who are close to you. You fear that your thoughts and beliefs might not be socially acceptable, or your stand on certain issues may trigger hate towards you. Help yourself by talking to the closest people you have. You don't need to be understood by a lot of people. Just the people who are important to you is enough. If you want to overcome your fears, it will be best if you start with this one. Not social enough. What is enough in being social anyway? Is it a minimum of 2 human interactions a day? Or a rule that an introvert should have at least 4 friends? Actually, it could mean a lot of things to other people. But to introverts, enough is when they start feeling drained after interacting with people. If you are a social introvert, you spend most of your social interactions with those closest to you. This is normal. If you are a thinking introvert, interacting with 7 people at parties is normal. If you are either an anxious or restrained introvert, you still talk to at least 1 person a day, and that is normal. The idea here is that being social for an introvert does not depend on the number of people they interact with. It focuses more on the amount of time they spend with them. You are not supposed to spend the whole week without even talking to 1 person, unless you are in seclusion, which you are probably not. Not being socially active enough is only disadvantageous because people might misinterpret it, and it is not deemed normal, especially when the majority of people around you are used to interacting with each other almost all the time. When you are in a workplace, people expect your expressive cooperation. So for this case, it is best to try and learn how to become more communicative. Creating a wall that isolates you from people. All the disadvantages mentioned above, when combined, result to the creation of an invisible wall that can eventually isolate you from people. This is a wall that makes it difficult for you to connect to society. Do not, however, blame society for it, because the truth is, you subconsciously created that wall yourself. You tend to use your harsh experiences in the past to build a stronger version of yourself. You do not express things as much, which makes it a little harder for you to let go of emotions. You get disappointed when people do not understand you in the same way you understand them. You sometimes tend to be insecure when others are chosen because they are more active than you. So instead of you nourishing your sensitivity as a talent to reach out to others, you bury it because you believe it hinders your success. It would be disappointing to think that your positive traits end up being the same thing responsible for the creation of that wall. However, look at it as the solution to it as well. If you are the one who built it, it just means you're the only one who can destroy it. All introverts have invisible walls to destroy. Those walls, however, vary in strength and in difficulty when it comes to destroying them. Take things 1 brick at a time. Chapter 5. Dealing with Introversion. You have learned from the disadvantages of being an introvert, but don't let that discourage you. In fact, see it as a means for you to better yourself. Now that you know what your weaknesses are, you can start turning these things into strengths. It may sound cliché, but you do have power over them. You can change things if you have the will and discipline to do it. Dealing with your flaws also means overcoming yourself. It requires a lot of motivation and effort to do. The idea is to improve the old you without losing yourself in the process. Even the thought of it can be exhausting, but it will surely be worth it. Invest your efforts into these methods of improving yourself, and one day, you will be able to do the things you thought you couldn't. Accept introversion and all of its downsides. First things first, do you accept introversion as your personality? If yes, do you accept all the disadvantages that come with being one? Before you continue, try answering both questions with yes. Repeat it to yourself until you finally believe that you are fully accepting yourself. It's easy to say yes, but to really believe it and love yourself for your weaknesses isn't always as simple. You will need to learn how to accept yourself sooner or later. But accepting yourself because you want to makes a lot more difference than simply accepting things because you know you don't have any other choice. Your mentality towards introversion is important because it affects everything. There is no such thing as a better personality type. Thinking of how things would have been easier if you were more extroverted does not help. What helps is you accepting your own personality. Once you begin accepting your personality, you will realize that you are becoming more open to people's opinion of you. This, however, is not something you can do overnight. It will be a long but rewarding process. There is nothing more fulfilling than the feeling of being loved and accepted as a flawed individual. Accept yourself and everything else will follow suit. Be open to opportunities. How do you actually do this if you are that typical introvert who is afraid of taking risks? One word: courage. If someone tells you that doing something takes a lot of courage, then collect as much courage as you can in order to achieve it. Placing a healthy amount of pressure on yourself is the best way to instantly acquire enough courage to do something. But if you are not the kind of introvert who works well under pressure, then learn the best ways of motivating yourself. You are good at assessing yourself, so why not use it to discover all the things that motivate you? If you cannot push yourself by your inner drive alone, try seeking out for external stimuli. Find an inspiration. Relationships always require a certain amount of social interaction and opening up to others. It can be scary to make yourself vulnerable and expose your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, or other things to another person you don't fully trust. But that too is a risk worth taking, depending on the person you're with, of course. And since I have been married for several years myself, and my partner being more of an extrovert, I know that the ups and downs of such a relationship are worth the effort. If you want to be a performer in a theater, but you're afraid of auditioning, take a moment and imagine many of today's most acclaimed performers. How did they become so great? Were they born good at acting? No. They began with the basics. They too went through auditions. Some even went through years of acting school just to achieve the status they have today. Remember that everything takes work. You cannot expand your singing vocals if you are too shy to show off your true range. Your dancing teachers wouldn't know how to assess your dancing level if you're too afraid to show what you can do. Do not be afraid of making mistakes, because you will make plenty of these if you truly want to become better and grow. Don't overthink things. Turn your if only into at least. Do not tell yourself, if only I have studied more, I would have had a perfect score on that exam. Instead say, "At least I passed the exam without studying much. I'll try studying more next time." Again, everything begins with your mentality. Look at the brighter side of things, even when the situation you are in right now isn't as favorable. It might not change the past, but it will help you cope with the future better. Overthinking, as you have learned in the preceding chapter, happens when an introvert is unable to control their thoughts. One of the most basic ways of stopping this is to not force your mind to add more negativity to the situation. This is particularly tricky and might even result in miserable flashbacks. Instead, relax and think of how those bad memories actually helped in shaping who you are now. If you cannot control what fills your thoughts, try controlling how you see these things instead. Turn a negative into a positive. Nurture the ways by which you express yourself. If you are not used to speaking as a way of expressing yourself, good news is you do have other options for it. Introverts tend to be creative when it comes to expressing themselves. The only downside of this is that people are not always very receptive to these, often thinking of it as strange and ending misunderstanding the thought behind it. Should this happen, worry not. The important thing here is that you are capable of expressing yourself in a way other than merely speaking. Many introverts find alternative outlets of expression. Some turn to writing, others would see music as a great opportunity for this. There are those who use physical activity, whether it be in the form of dance or simply walking by themselves. It doesn't matter how simple or complex the activity is. Remember that the idea here is to let go of any emotions, especially bad ones, that are lingering inside you. The more you keep these things inside, the worse you'll feel. So, find a way to let them go. Allow yourself to be alone sometimes. You might get confused along the process of improving yourself and become convinced that you are somehow becoming an extrovert. However, do understand that this is not the case. First, you cannot just change into being an extrovert, even though you feel as if you are acting more like one. You will learn more about this in Chapter 7. Second, keep in mind that your introversion is not a sickness to cure. Third, you are improving your introversion, not changing it. The reason you need to deal with the disadvantages that introversion entails is because you have a potential in you that needs to be discovered. And the only way to discover it is to surpass your own weakness. But if you start feeling exhaustion during any part of this process, give yourself time to be alone. Allow yourself to postpone things. Never prioritize progress when it comes to this, as it's not worth becoming drained of energy and even happiness in some cases. If something doesn't feel right, pause and rethink. Do not overdo things. When it comes to the things you want to change, believe that you'll achieve all these at some point. There's no rush to it. Being alone can be liberating, even if it's only for a short time. This way, you can clear your thoughts, talk to yourself, or observe a silent area to align your worries, concerns, and creative ideas and passions. Be more social. You may think of this as contradictory to the idea of allowing yourself to be alone for some time. However, it is not. Being alone is your way of recharging yourself as an introvert. But being social helps feed your mind. It widens your perspective, and you certainly need it from time to time. Remember that whilst you have to improve your old self, you can do this without losing your personality in the process. In some cases, if an introvert lacks social interaction, this could be attributed to laziness on their part. Maybe they simply aren't in the mood to go out. That being said, try saying yes to your friends more often. Choose the right people to hang out with, so you can avoid becoming too exhausted. Consider this. A lot of introverts who were once a lot more timid have managed to become more socially inclined. Sure, they still have the basic traits of introversion, but at the same time, they've also overcome any issues they might have when it comes to social interaction. This, of course, doesn't always come easy. It takes a lot to overcome something, especially if it causes them greater fear. Given enough time, however, these introverts have mastered the subtle art of being more open to society without allowing the best things about their introversion to fade away. This small change can actually be confusing for some, but believe that just because you're a bit more social, it doesn't mean you've turned into an extrovert. There's a lot more that separates these two things. It isn't just a matter of becoming more social or outgoing. Chapter 6. Becoming more social. According to the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle, humans are social animals. Taking that into account, introverts do not necessarily need to learn how to be social because they are already social themselves. However, they tend to socialize less than extroverts do. Since society demands human interaction to keep moving forward, it is substantially dominated by extroverts. Frustrating? No. Instead, take this as a challenge. How do you keep pace with the dominant extrovert crowd without losing touch with your core personality? Here are a few methods you may want to try out. Talk to yourself. This may sound ironic to you, but this is based on fact. Most techniques would tell you things like talk to other people or to try speaking in front of the public. But bear in mind that how you sound yourself is more or less the same as you sound to other people. Talking to yourself is a sign that you have a healthy mind. But of course, this is particularly true only to a certain extent. Think of it as practice. Consider yourself as both the speaker and audience. Think of a certain topic and talk to yourself about the different ideas and opinions about it. Do this out loud. This is best done when facing a mirror. Just talk naturally and listen to your voice, the way you intonate things. Get used to the comfort you are feeling whenever you talk to yourself, and try to bring that same feeling when you go out and socialize. Talking to yourself does not only enable you to practice your approach, it also helps boost up your confidence in case you belong to the anxious introvert type. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. Be spontaneous. Being too reserved also plays a huge role when it comes to your social skills. Your tendency to plan what to say before speaking is one of the main things that often hinder you from talking to people with ease. Think about it. If you converse slowly, often pausing for a period of time to think, the person you're with may start to become bored. This is no more than a natural reaction, right? In other cases, people might see this as insincerity or a sign of disinterest in your part. See, a lot of misconceptions can be brought on by the mere fact that you were simply trying to organize what you wanted to say. Remember, not everyone understands how the introvert works. Don't expect them to read your every action in a positive light. Sometimes planning can be very limiting. The point here is that you don't get to plan everything that will happen. Life will always find a way to bring you to where you need to be, and it will not regard even a bit of what you have planned. Try to apply this principle to the way you talk to people. Do not plan what to say. Let the words come out without being filtered beforehand. Be more confident in your words, and know that, should they be misunderstood, you will have an opportunity to explain yourself better. And what if you don't? Let your words stand as they are, and let it all go. Talk to strangers. As a kid, You are often told that you're not supposed to talk to strangers. However, as an adult introvert, you will find that speaking to strangers can be a great platform to practice being more open. One thing that suppresses your openness to people is your fear that they might change their impression towards you. If you talk to strangers, you technically won't have to fear this consequence. Strangers would not have an initial idea of who you are. They know nothing about your religion, your preferences in life, your stand on political issues, or the things that might irk you. They are less likely to judge you or assume things about you. You might even consider them as the safest people to talk to. Note: while talking to strangers is encouraged, it is still important to maintain spatial awareness when doing so. Given that you are speaking to someone you've only just met, it is best to do this in an environment you consider safe. For example, talking to a stranger at a party or a seminar should be fine. In comparison, talking to someone at the bus stop or someone you've randomly chanced upon on the street isn't quite so. Always be mindful of these things. Chat. Social media just might be one of the greatest gifts of modern technology to introverted people. You do not necessarily have to meet people and exhaust yourself from a whole day of discussing projects, assignments, or plans. If you used social media before as an escape to reduce personal interaction with people, why not use it as an opportunity to talk to them more instead? This practice is great for social and anxious introverts. In chatting with people through the internet, you won't have to worry about making awkward expressions because you are not interacting with them face to face. But be wary about using this method. This is supposed to initiate friendly relationships and not become your ultimate medium of talking to people. Always try to meet your friends in real life too. This creates a stronger bond and helps you overcome boundaries with yourself as well. Expand your connection. Try to expand your connections. Try to at least be in a conversation with another person other than your close friends for a fair amount of time each day. Talk to them and use it as an opportunity to study their behavior. You are good at observing, so use it to your advantage. Apply your learning to help you adapt to situations where you might meet people with the same behavior or approach as the people you have met before. The more people you get to talk to, the more capable you become at adapting yourself to different personalities. Chapter 7. Strengths of an Introvert. The first side of the coin was presented in Chapter 4. The next one will be discussed here. Now that you know how to deal with your personality's weaknesses, the next thing you would want to act on is your boundless set of strengths. Introverts do have some ideas about what their talents and capabilities are, but they cannot yet create a whole picture with it. They cannot be certain in themselves of these potentials because they have little or no actual experience of putting it to the test. So, to help you with this, here are a few known strengths that most introverts would have. Independence. Independence is one of your innate characteristics, so do not take it for granted. Utilize it because not everyone is capable of doing things alone. With it, you are more confident, fearing less things, and ready to conquer whatever the future may bring. Remember that your life is mostly made up of your decisions. You are the captain of your own ship. You decide which path you walk, which way you go. Nobody can tell you what to do. You can be trusted with any job or task. In school, your teachers probably do not have to oversee you. You can discipline yourself. In the workplace, your boss would not have to regularly remind you of your deadlines. You are also less likely to be in conflict with your supervisors. Upper-level officers Believe that you can produce quality output on time. Self-trust. One of the greatest things that independence can develop in people is self-trust. Self-trust is vital towards your ability to stay firm amid the rapid changes in your surroundings. With it, you are not susceptible to any malicious influence. People will find it hard to negatively influence you. Your solid stand on things is not easy to destroy. You believe that you are accountable for everything that happens to your life. You are able to learn from your own shortcomings and believe that you can stand up every time you fall down. Leadership. When you combine independence and self-trust, you have some of the most essential qualities that a good leader must have. At its very core, ideas of leadership is being able to work with your members equally in order for the team to function as one. As an introvert, you have the unique ability of reading what your team's strengths and weaknesses are. In doing so, you would be able to delegate the task intelligently. Since you're also a great listener, you would be able to sympathize with their needs quite easily. Observational skills provide you with the ability to give advice that no one else might have thought of. Simple things really, but they make all the difference. A great artist. For the most part, many introverts are actually a bit more artistically inclined when compared to others. They tend to see things differently, sometimes in a deeper and more thoughtful manner. As they are not always the best when it comes to vocalizing these things, many introverted people turn to art as a medium for expression. Painting, sketching, music, theater, and even writing are just a few of the most common choices for them. It's all about finding what you are most comfortable with and developing what you're most passionate about. Effective communication skill. This may seem surprising, but many introverts actually possess the potential of being a good speaker, and this is due to certain characteristics they inherently possess. Being a good listener is one of those characteristics. If you are used to listening to people, then you are aware of the subjects that compel them to really pay attention. You are more capable of adjusting the formality, tone, and level of words you need to use in order to get your point across. If good speakers catch their audience's attention with their words, the best speakers catch attention with their wit. Think of this as an opportunity to stretch your creative muscles and create speeches based on your observation of people. Remember that one way of connecting effectively with people is by finding common ground with them. As an introvert, this is also among your many talents, the ability to sympathize with whoever you may be conversing with. Proper judgment. It should be clear to you by now that your ultimate weapon is your mind. It could go places even if your body physically could not. One thing it does is collectively process data and form judgments. If you are an introvert, it is not easy for you to hastily settle on a final decision. Unlike extroverts who usually judge objectively, you regard information subjectively. You don't just use evidence to rush into conclusions. You use other factors to help you analyze situations carefully, such as external forces or abnormalities in the environment. You believe solving a case is not just for the sake of settling things in the present, but it can also be used to derive solutions for the future. Your way of judging can both be disadvantageous and advantageous. Always use your critical thinking when finalizing decisions. Chapter 8. The Role of Introverts in Society. The world is not a stage where audiences can see only the performers. It is an entire production, a whole crew that puts everything together. Each one puts in an equal amount of effort in order to create the best production possible. In the same manner, The world is not only comprised of extroverts, the people who would often appear on stage. The crew is also comprised of introverts who help keep things running even while they stay back from the limelight. After all, most introverts are happier simply doing their thing in the backstage. So, what roles would apply to introverts in our society? Here are a few examples. Provides balance. Where there are storytellers, there would also be listeners. Introverts provide a much-needed balance by simply being themselves. Introverts are everywhere in our society, and wherever they may be placed, they bring their strengths along with them. These are the people who observe quietly and apply what they have learned accordingly. The people with a keen eye for detail, who highlight the things we may have missed. Without them, the balance of energies between people will not exist, and we can argue that society may not even function as it should. Can you imagine a world where there are only extroverted people? A new way of looking at things. As established earlier, introverts tend to have a deeper perspective on the things that happen around them. The society benefits in many ways from this, especially when it comes to finding solutions for problems that might seem challenging at first. To find the best answer to a riddle, two differing opinions need to be considered: the common answer and the other that's a little out of the box. Without people who are capable of creative thought, can there really be any progress? This is one of the reasons why people with unique perspectives are important to the whole. Famous introverts. Albert Einstein and Sir Isaac Newton, two of the most important contributors to the field of science, were actually introverts. In politics, you have the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, who was also the first African American president in the United States. Hillary Clinton, a former First Lady of the U.S., is also an introvert. Mark Zuckerberg, who is the founder and current CEO of one of the most famous social networking sites, and Bill Gates, the philanthropist who founded Microsoft, are both introverts who have made a huge impact on today's modern society. The famous Michael Jordan is one of the greatest introvert athletes who have inspired many basketball players. The creator of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, is also an introvert. There are even celebrities who happen to be introverts as well. To name a few, there is Emma Watson, Johnny Depp, Lady Gaga, Christina Aguilera, Audrey Hepburn, and Zayn Malik. Imagine the courage all of them had to take to get used to cameras and paparazzi. Conclusion. Introvert personality is a personality type that covers a range of characteristics distinct from those of the other types. There are signs that may indicate that you are an introvert, such as the desire to be alone, being a keen observer, having a small circle of friends, being reserved, and more. If you identify yourself as an introvert, you need to be aware of the misconceptions about introversion in order to prevent yourself from being misled by such ideas. This personality type can be further divided into 4 specific categories, namely social, thinking, anxious, and restrained introvert. It is important to know which type you are, as each possesses different sets of introvert traits. Same as any other personality, introversion has both weak and strong points. The best way to deal with them is to accept both points. That way, you can manage to overcome your weaknesses as an introvert and utilize your strengths for the greater good. Improvement is something you should always seek from your personality. Introversion has a lot to offer. At first, you might find it hard to see your role in a society largely comprised of extroverts, but try to seek for it anyway. Explore the society despite the overwhelming amounts of different people you may meet along the way. Challenge yourself to adapt to that kind of setting, and one day you will see your purpose. You will find out that introverts are more important to society than you think. Go out there and discover it yourself. This has been Introvert, The Quiet Power in a World of Noise. Written by Rita Chester. Narrated by Kelly McGee. Copyright 2017 by Rita Chester. Production copyright 2017 by Rita Chester.